Hello, welcome back to Killer Score, the podcast that covers cult classic films, their soundtracks or scores, and the composers behind them, and gives you all sorts of fun little trivia. I am Daulton Morrison, man who owns many jackets.
I'm Erin Murray, a woman who owns way too much craft supplies.
And I am Richard Eckert, man who owns way too much audio equipment.
So, we are back again. We are finishing off Musical March. It's coming out late. We had some delays, but
Easter.
Yeah.
It's Easter. We're in a basement. Let's do this.
Yeah, we're going to be finishing this off, then back to our regularly scheduled programming before our next theme month. So this time we have Richie taking her off. Before we do, though, of course, further stuff, you can find me on Twitter and YouTube at Sick Jacket Man. We're going to be making some other social media profiles for the Killer Score account soon. Expect to see more posts on Instagram from that, so we'll be using that more, and some other platforms. If you folks want to see us on other ones, leave comments below about it. So yeah.
That is a sneeze there, possibly.
No, it wasn't. Anyway, you can find me at witchandcraftsnj.com. You can find my Instagram, witchandcrafts.nj. Yeah, I have a Twitter that I hardly ever use, and my personal Instagram under Nair Murray.
Dodging a bullet with that blue bird site there. Anyway, you can find me on my dust collecting Twitter at RichFEckert, or more pertinently on YouTube, where you can see some of my older voice acting content before some new stuff comes out. I've got some dubs I'm working on with this guy over here, plus Ben Grace and Nate Everwest, and a whole bunch of other things waiting in the wings that I cannot wait to put trailers out for once I put those together. But until then, speaking of things I am super excited about, this episode has been a long time coming, and the second that Musical March became a thing, I knew that this would be on the lineup. I am talking about the long, significant, and messy history behind the film that is Cats Don't Dance, the 1997 Golden Age musical send-up with music by Randy Newman, directed by Mark Dindal for the ill-fated Turner Animation.
I've heard of Turner Animation. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, okay.
Oh.
So, Turner Animation, you've heard of it.
Yes.
How much do you know, Erin?
I know it's an animation studio, and I'm pretty sure it's defunct.
Oh, you have no idea. Because the history behind that studio and this movie could take up its own dedicated video essay. So, before Turner Broadcasting was known for this movie, they were known for its animation wing.
Ted Turner?
Yes, that Turner.
Oh, yeah, Captain Planet. Okay.
Yeah, before, well, not really before Captain Planet, this was a bit after.
Yeah.
But before this movie, they were known for precisely only one other film that they had contributed animation to. That being the box office disaster that was the Macaulay Culkin-helmed live-action animated film, The Page Master.
Ah, yes, a staple of many school on a day when teachers didn't feel like working in English class.
Yeah.
You know, I remember renting that movie at Blockbuster and thinking it was okay when I was like 7 and never watching it again.
Yeah. Critics everywhere described that movie as a film that existed. But as I had mentioned before, it did terribly at the box office and more or less cemented Turner Animation, which itself was a offshoot of Hanna-Barbera Animation, as being pretty thoroughly box office poisoned. And I bring up the Pagemaster because this film was starting out as a live-action animated hybrid in and of itself. It began as, weirdly enough, a star vehicle for Michael Jackson.
What?
Yes. Who would star in a musical about an up-and-coming star practicing dance moves with the cats of the back alley of Hollywood studios.
See, before you said cats, I was thinking about The Wiz.
Okay, understandable.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something that I might just bring to the table, if not for the sole sake of discussion, but that's for another musical march. But, that's how it began. It was going to be a live-action animated movie, mostly with CGI, and I'm not sure how that would have worked in 1997.
Not great.
Yeah, it's hard to say, yeah.
Go see our Spawn episode for proof positive of how that would have worked. But then eventually Michael Jackson left the project in its early stages in 1994, and soon it was then that Hanna-Barbera's arm of Turner Animation came in and said, hey, we can handle this. Let's rework this. Let's make this about the typical Singin' in the Rain style rising star musical.
Let's put on a show.
Let's put on a show.
Yeah.
But with anthropomorphic animals.
Yeah.
That's an episode of Animaniacs.
It's funny you should mention that because we'll get into it, but there's some overlapping. But
I wouldn't be surprised if it also if Michael Jackson dropped the project because his, public image wasn't great at the time in '94, and also due to the fact that his previous film works had not worked out well.
Yeah, what was the best thing he was involved with? Moonwalker?
That or The Wiz, yeah.
I would say The Wiz.
Yeah, but even that was a disaster in and of itself.
Yeah, despite Jackson being an icon and big draw for pretty much everything, his film stuff never worked out well for him.
And let's just say things went downhill for them. Well, for him in particular, and leave it at that for now.
Yeah.
But getting back to Cats Don't Dance, Turner Animation looked at the failure that was the Pagemaster and said, okay, let's try this again. Let's make this our big shot. And they actually ended up getting a lot of big names involved with this, especially when it came to emulating the atmosphere, choreography, and style of these big musicals. And a lot of non-musical films really played a big part in influencing the movie, like East of Eden, Casablanca, and back to musicals for a second, The Music Man. And the cast and crew behind this particular movie is pretty damn noteworthy. You've got Scott Bakula as the leading man, Danny, a orange tabby cat who wants to make his way in Hollywood and become a song and dance man. Well, cat.
Meow.
You've got John Rhys Davies as the mascot of Mammoth Studios. You've got Hal Holbrook in this movie as Cranston the Goat. Don fucking Knotts as T.W. Turtle. I mean, it's Don Knotts as a nervous turtle.
He's no stranger to cartoon work either.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Between this and Scooby-Doo.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the voice acting nerd in me will always light up knowing that this was the final performance of the then retired Betty Lou Gerson a radio legend who was probably most famous for Cruella de Vil.
Oh,
wow.
okay.
Yes, and like I said, she had come out of retirement because she actually liked the script of this and decided that she would provide the voice of Frances, a fish performer who is essentially this movie's equivalent of a Mae West character.
Oh, okay.
Sounds good, right? A lot of good pedigree, and a score by Randy Newman, who was probably the best possible person you could get for a jazzy Americana musical like this.
That's fair.
Say what you will about Randy Newman, but this was before he was super ubiquitous as a kids movie composer.
Yeah, I mean, he'd definitely been getting notoriety for it for the last few years, but yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like a good production so far, right?
Yeah.
And then Warner Brothers bought Turner Animation.
Oh.
Oh boy.
Not even halfway through production of what would become the finished product, Turner Animation was folded into Warner Brothers, who themselves had already had a flop with the Iron Giant.
Yeah.
And as you can
I thought
imagine...
the Iron Giant came later.
No, I think it was the same time.
I thought Iron Giant did. Check the date.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Iron Giant came out after this.
I believe so. My notes might have been a bit discombobulated, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, actually, Iron Giant was afterwards, 2 years later.
Yeah, because I could have sworn I heard that Iron Giant ended up being like the last thing Turner Animation really did.
Oh, that was Warner Brothers. Well, Turner was folded in before that, so. But, yeah. Timelines. But yes, Warner Brothers, the guys who knew marketing so well that they screwed over the Iron Giant 2 years later, decided this movie's not worth it. And they barely marketed it, and they only made one, and I mean one, poster for this movie.
Oh. You know, now I think about it, I don't remember this movie being advertised at all when I was a kid. I remember The Thief and the Cobbler more, which is sad.
Considering that mess, that is tragic. That is just so sad.
Yeah.
But yeah, no marketing whatsoever, only a commercial or two at best for its theatrical run, and its only marketing outside of that, toys for Subway kids' meals.
I did read that there was a tie-in with Subway, which confused me because I was
That is confusing.
I know Subway occasionally did tie-ins with like kids' movies, but it always confused me even when I was a kid.
Just remember, kids, before they were littering every city block in your neighborhood, they started out promoting Cats Don't Dance.
There's actually a joke about Subways and Dairy Queens. No, I'm not even kidding. There's a joke that you build a Subway or a Dairy Queen and the town forms around it.
Your soul belongs to Subway.
Yeah, I mean, that's how a lot of rural towns, that's like the joke is like, you build a Subway or a Dairy Queen and the town goes around it.
Just go watch the John Oliver feature on Subway to see how that crazy business model works. But, it's funny you mentioned never seeing it promoted all that much, Erin, because even though it predictably bombed due to the utter lack of marketing, it actually did pretty well on, home video, and unsurprisingly, given its relationship with Hanna-Barbera, it was a staple of reruns on Cartoon Network.
Yeah, I do remember blowing by it on occasion when I was like watching cartoons when I was younger, and like I never stuck around to watch it for some reason. I was just always like, oh, they're showing a movie, I'll watch something else.
It's funny because it was always on while I was at school, and then I caught it one night when I was a kid, and I really liked it. And critics at the time who saw it really liked it too. And I will say that though it's got some holes here and there, flaws, it's got great animation courtesy of future Emperor's New Groove director Mark Dindal. It's got a hell of a voice cast and great musical numbers.
I mean, speaking of troubled productions.
That's kind of a staple of the show, let's be real.
Yeah.
But just poor Dindal going from this to
Kingdom of the
Sun, which became Emperor's New Groove, and oof.
Yeah. But this movie, I bring it up because it's got a lot of historical significance and contains, apart from Mark Dindal, some of the most important people in the history of animation and film in general. As it went through a lot of phases, Gene Kelly actually contributed minor elements of the choreography.
Oh, wow.
Oh, dang.
And the movie is actually dedicated to his memory.
Oh, that's
There's
nice.
a little in memoriam for Gene Kelly.
That's sweet.
I like that.
And on the production side of things, I was able to find notes on just how crazy the troubled production was for this.
Right.
Thanks to notes on changes in the voice cast from a little animator who had been getting her start there at the time, by the name of Lauren Faust.
Oh, yay!
Yep. She had a blog at one point about her production experiences on Cats Don't Dance, where she had outright confirmed that the female lead Sawyer's voice actress changed a few times, forcing Jasmine Guy of the sitcom A Different World to essentially dub over the lines that were already animated.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I think I heard that there was someone who was like meant to be a placeholder in this movie, and then they were just like, "We ran out of money, so that's just going to be the actual voice actor."
Yeah, that's gonna be Sawyer. But yeah, Lauren Faust, for those who are uninitiated, is probably most famous for her work in children's animation.
Yeah.
Namely, the Powerpuff Girls, Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends with eventual husband Craig McCracken.
Well, she also worked on Powerpuff Girls with Craig.
Oh, and that.
Yeah.
And
My Little Pony Friendship is Magic.
yep.
Yeah, which was part of the now defunct Hub Network's attempt to bring back some older Hasbro-owned franchises and revitalize them, make them in the cartoon staples again, and sort of get a good competitive market out there for cartoons and stuff.
In other words, you have her to thank for one of the most robust and unpredictably successful fandoms in animation pop culture.
Yeah, she said she wanted to make it more accessible for everyone and just not just make it so toy-driven as it had been in the previous years.
She succeeded.
Yeah,
Yeah, more character-driven.
exactly.
Yeah.
Having caught glimpses of it myself, yeah, good show. But this movie, despite being all but buried by the cruel Hollywood system, has people with a lot of fondness in their hearts for it, including animation nerds, Disney nerds, and most especially the furry community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead and just throw a rock on DeviantArt and you're likely to hit fan art of Danny and or Sawyer.
Yeah, or go to places that people actually upload art to nowadays, instead of a place that's just getting overrun by crappy AI-driven algorithmic art.
Yeah.
Been a big issue with DeviantArt.
I was working with old links at the time when
Fair enough, yeah.
when I saw those.
Yeah. You know the places if you know.
If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
But yeah, this movie's a lot of fun, and when I bring up, Emperor's New Groove, you'll see the resemblances in its wacky, fast-paced rubber hose animation immediately. It's got a great villain in the form of Darla Dimple, or evil Shirley Temple.
Oh, okay.
But it's a lot of fun. Don't come in expecting Shakespeare or anything, and also the main character has the personality of a picket fence, but supporting cast is great. I can't wait for you to see all those musical numbers and see your faces light up as I tell you more trivia about it after the intro.
Yeah. So speaking of troubled live-action cartoon hybrids, when are we going to cover Cool World?
In time, my friend. In time. You're talking to a Ralph Bakshi nut over here.
Okay.
I mean, I have Fritz the Cat on Blu-ray.
All right. Let's get into the screening.
And we're back on Killer Score. God damn it, Dalton, what are you giggling about this time?
Nothing. I'm happy to be here.
Grinning like a Cheshire cat. Speaking of cats, we are back from the screening of Cats Don't Dance here on Killer Score.
Which, by the way, 0 out of 10, that title. So misleading. There's so much dancing cats. There are exactly 2 cats in this film, and goddammit, they both dance.
The idiotic, sardonic antics of my co-host aside, I've seen this movie 2 times prior to this. Once when I was a kid, and the second one when I was just getting out of high school. And coming back to this movie has revealed it to be the deep-cut masterpiece that it is. It's a shorter one, but if you like really fast-paced, chaotic, well-timed comic animation, you will like this. And if you have a soft spot for old musicals like Singin' in the Rain and The Music Man, you must also see this. It's got great musical numbers. It's got some of the best comedic timing of any animated comedy, and I do mean that in full consideration of everything, including the director's later work in The Emperor's New Groove. And just it's just fun. Fun is the best adjective I have to describe this, but going down the line of my co-hosts, I'd like to get their thoughts on this.
Jokes aside, I liked it. I thought it was very cute and charming and had good direction overall. The animation was fantastic. Don't really have any complaints. The only thing I didn't like, to be honest, was I thought it was a little too fast-paced.
Yeah.
Because even for a kid's movie, it's pretty short.
Yeah, just
Like an hour and 15, right?
Yeah, just clocking in under an hour and a half.
Yeah, and for me at least, I'm used to kids' movies being hour and a half usually.
Like a 90-minute.
90-minute flick, and I feel like it could have used just a little extra time, establish and iron some stuff out just a bit more. That's the only gripe I have.
Considering what this movie went through, I wouldn't be surprised if it lost some stuff.
Yeah, I think I heard that like there were scenes that were cut that are on like rare Laserdisc versions of the film and stuff like that, but
find it on Betamax.
Yeah, basically. Hey, I mean, to this day, the only place you can legally, on home media, view the debut animation of Gainax is on a Japanese Laserdisc.
Oh.
For a fan convention, because the first Gainax animated thing was a promo video for the convention Daikon. Yeah, Daikon 4 specifically.
Now I'm just going to have Twilight stuck in my head.
It's way worse songs to be stuck in your head.
It is ELO.
Oh, yeah, it's one of my favorite ELO songs.
Enough about our music nerddom, though, Dalton. Let's cut to Erin's opinions.
I think this was a pretty good movie.
Mm-hmm.
It could benefit from certain scenes being stretched out. Maybe, I hate to use the word padding, but I feel like it needed some more time to breathe in between scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's something that it could have benefited from.
A little more character stuff.
And more character development.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little more character
It does go a mile a minute.
Yeah.
It goes a mile a minute, and that's although if you want a movie to sit down and your kids can watch and enjoy, it's perfect that way. If you want something that the adults can also enjoy and appreciate more, I think it could benefit from some more atmosphere.
Yeah.
A little more, just a little more time to breathe.
Just a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, first thing I would like to first cover is, let's talk about the animation a bit, because, the one thing that I'd say benefits the most from the fast-paced direction of this movie are the slapstick scenes and the musical numbers.
Not denying that at all.
Yeah, like, I made a joke that the movie was pulling a Baby Driver, and to that end, what I thought was, for a movie that's as fast-paced as this,
there is an actual term for that, especially along the animation.
Mickey Mousing.
Yep.
Expert use of Mickey Mousing in this.
Absolutely.
Like, for a movie that's as fast-paced as this, they sure know how to precisely time bits of slapstick and one-liners to musical numbers.
Yeah.
This movie loves to put its background characters to good use, and it also loves its nodding winks to old Hollywood, but in a way that's so fast and so sly that it doesn't come across as like they're just sort of congratulating themselves for it. It's not tedious.
Yeah, I would agree. It's definitely a good tribute to the golden age Hollywood musical, I would call it. Yeah.
They even reference that at the end when they show. Sorry, I don't know if this counts as spoilers, but they do some parody of famous film posters at the end of the movie. You didn't spoil the plot.
You're fine.
No. Okay, and one of them was "Singing in the Rain."
Yeah.
Which this movie kind of takes a lot of cues from, the upstart in the big Hollywood musical to the rough romance that gets better by the end.
Yeah, that's probably the area I think you could have used the most time more.
Yeah.
That was undeniably so. It was cute, but it also could have used a bit more. It just kind of
hits you oh wait, okay, we're doing this now. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mostly have our facial expressions, which
I don't mind subtlety, but it just feels a little too tacked on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those subtlety over substance kind of things, I'd say.
Yeah.
Where they vaguely hint at a romance coming on, and then they just kind of throw it at you.
Well, because it's a kids movie. You got a romance in the kids movie.
Which, no, you don't have to.
I don't know why they do that with so many kids.
Yeah, I don't know why they do that with kids movies. It's why are you getting 5-year-olds obsessed with romance when it's they're 5? It's kind of gross.
There are way worse examples of that. Case in point, Chicken Little, which, funny enough, was also directed by Mark Dindal.
That guy's had some bad luck.
He really has.
Let's talk about that for a moment. This talented man
I hate
has...
Chicken Little so much.
Hey, Emperor's New Groove is a good movie.
No, I'm not
great.
denying that Emperor's New Groove and this are great.
It's just that his movies have such a curse attached to them. This movie was screwed over by Warner Brothers.
Emperor's New Groove had so much production issues.
There's an entire documentary called The Sweatbox, dedicated to what was once called the Kingdom of the Sun, but it is now the Emperor's New Groove.
Yeah, the failed original pitch for the film that went through so much development hell.
Yeah. But
Sting was supposed to be involved with it.
He literally got one song.
Yeah.
Oh. Although, if it makes you feel any better, Daulton, he was also involved with the visual effects for much more successful animated movies after that, including something you might have heard of called The Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
And The Rescuers Down Under, which, was a decent box office success, if not the biggest, but it's Disney.
Except
so.
those were both before this movie.
Wow, this one was like the
timeline fuckery.
this is the first domino to set off the fall of them all.
I would say, because Little Mermaid came out in 89.
89, yeah. That was considered the film that saved Disney's animation division.
Yeah, but that animation is so good. I really also appreciate its use of lighting in sync with mood in that movie, because anytime, they do the whole stage lighting thing where anytime there's a sad musical number or moment, the lights dim on the character that's being focused on. But then when Danny, being
it helps that that like the majority of this is set on like Hollywood stages, so it also kind of makes sense in universe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not like the kind of movie musical that people have a problem with, where it's like, oh, it's song and dance coming out of nowhere. Sometimes it actually makes sense in this film.
Yeah, the only time where there's song and dance coming out of nowhere is like the very first musical number,
Which it's an opening number.
And it's an establishing character moment, so I give it a pass.
Yeah. Because I was going to say that every other scene in this where there's a musical number, it makes sense
It's
in
diegetic.
universe. It's diegetic. It
Yeah.
makes sense in universe because they're on a soundstage or it's planned or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And being an animated musical with animals as the principal characters allows for a lot of creative staging. Like,
Ironically, if you like how BoJack Horseman has a lot of animal personality and animal stereotype based jokes, and that's some of your favorite parts of BoJack, you'd like this in the movie.
this movie does a bit more with physicality, though.
Yeah.
Like when they have
Like, I'm reminded of the scene in BoJack Horseman of like the paparazzi birds flying and smashing into like glass windows and stuff, you know.
Yeah, but specifically they do little gags with like Wooly the Mammoth. That's
Tilting his tail.
tilting his trailer whenever he moves from side to side making tea.
Yeah.
Or even with Sawyer, like when she gets freaked out in one scene, her whole body fluffs up like a cat.
Yeah.
Because she's a cat.
One of the fluffiest breeds by the movie's classification.
Yeah, they say she's a Turkish Angora, which is a big fluffy white cat.
Yeah.
The Samoyed of cats.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, the mammoth likes peanuts and stuff. You know, elephants like peanuts. That stereotype.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I don't even think those are good for elephants anyway.
Same thing with rabbits and carrots.
Yeah.
But
too much carrots.
speaking of that, characters are all super charming.
Oh,
Yeah.
It has a decent-ish lead in Danny. He's a little boring and standard. He's the dreamer. He's the guy who's going to inspire everybody because he's not going to give up his dreams. He's the main character. But he serves his purpose, and Scott Bakula sounded like he had a lot of fun.
yeah. Scott Bakula actually turning in a good performance for once. Good job, Scott.
Not a Quantum Leap fan, I take it?
Quantum Leap's okay. It's just everything else with Scott Bakula.
I was also going to say, there's a character that I know Dalton would like to mention.
Yes.
Pudge
Yeah,
the
let's talk-
penguin.
Yes.
Yeah, let's talk about Pudge.
So, movies have this history, especially kids' films, of, oh, look, this is the cutesy sidekick. You're going to love the cutesy sidekick. You will enjoy the cutesy sidekick. And they're 90% of the time like the worst part of the movie.
Like Gurgi in the Black Cauldron, for example.
Rick and Gurgi.
Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, like, I am one of those people who gets so much shit for this, but I despise Olaf. I absolutely hate Olaf.
Well,
That's fair.
our climb to potential sponsorships was nice while it lasted.
We can do without Disney. Hey,
I
DreamWorks,
covered Disney.
DreamWorks, Illumination, call me, Bobby.
That's what I call my dog, is Bubby.
Well, it just means baby.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway,
Or
Pudge.
Grandma if you're Yiddish.
Yeah, that too. But seriously, no, call me. Especially you, Illumination. I gotta say, your movies, I haven't seen your movies. However, I love your tie-in meals that you do for IHOP. Every single one of those You knocked it out of the park, I have to admit.
Pudge.
Pudge. What I'm getting at is Pudge is your cutesy animal sidekick, but they don't overdo him. He doesn't steal scenes. He's just a little guy. He's just a little penguin. Granted, I have an extreme soft spot for penguins. I love penguins. They're one of my favorite animals. 10 out of 10 animal. Look up a fairy penguin sometime. They're adorable. They're like these little yellow guys. Yeah, there's yellow penguins.
Yeah,
like
they are.
Yellow bodies. They're the cutest thing ever. I love all types of penguins. They're the best animal ever. One of them at least. Top 5 for me easily. But Pudge, he's just sweet. He's not overbearing. He's naturally cute, helped by having an actual child voicing him, who's very good.
Very subdued.
Very subdued, and he's just a cute little dude who likes the main character, sees the best in him, and sticks by his side.
And arguably keeps him from turning his back on his dreams when things go incredibly pear-shaped for him.
I was also going to say, I appreciate the movie's use of child voice actors.
Yeah.
Which is something you don't see a lot in animation, in any animation, really. Because usually when they're doing a feature film or even certain TV series and that kind of thing, they have an adult voicing a child, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Thankfully, it's becoming a bit more common nowadays.
Yeah. But, yeah, unless your name is Gray Delisle, you're probably going to sound a little unnatural if you're voicing a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the other example I was going to make is Full Metal Alchemist.
Oh, yeah, Alphonse.
Where Alphonse is voiced by an adult woman, but you can kind of tell.
In Brotherhood.
In Brotherhood, at least,
In the first anime, he was voiced by Aaron Dismuke when he was 12.
Yeah, because in Brotherhood, Alphonse is voiced by an adult woman.
Maxie Whitehead.
Yeah. And,
she did alright.
Yeah, and Edward is voiced by someone we won't mention, but he was an adult man.
Yeah, moving on.
Yeah, like for example, I've noticed Cartoon Network's been doing it more lately.
With Steven Universe.
Steven Universe. They did it with Craig of the Creek too. Philip Solomon was a child when they started the production.
Oh, and
of it,
The Amazing World of Gumball.
Yeah, like it's for the benefit, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it also reminds me of going back to Animaniacs. The little squirrel kid whose name I'm blanking on right now was Skippy Squirrel. He was actually voiced by a kid who I think was like 8 or 9 when they started production.
Yeah.
But by the time they finished Animaniacs, he had like hit puberty.
And so they had
to pitch shift his voice for like all of it.
This is especially evident when you get to the big direct-to-video movie Wacko's Wish, where the effects are so transparent.
Yeah, I mean, I always appreciate the use of child voice actors playing children.
Yeah.
Because it's just something that I'm glad we're seeing more of. Because, as I said, at best, when you have an adult voice a child, you get, like, Rugrats. At worst, you get, I can't think of any specific examples off the top of my head, but you get an adult doing a baby voice.
Oh, I can think of a specific example.
Richie,
Thank you, yeah.
The direct-to-video sequel to Lady and the Tramp. Yeah, Lady and the Tramp 2. One of the better Disney sequels from that era. Except for Scamp, who was voiced by Scott fucking Wolf.
Oh.
So you have this, like, 30-year-old dude, late 20s at the youngest, trying to sound like a puppy.
Oh, or I got a good one for you. Like, any 80s cartoon.
Uh-huh. Mighty Max. Hey, let's cast Rob Paulson as the 10-year-old.
Or the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, where it's obviously a bunch of adults pretending they're teenagers.
While we're on the subject of actually good child actors in these movies, though, I think we gotta talk about Darla Dimple.
Yeah.
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 What a villain for this movie.
Yeah, because when we were watching the movie, Richie mentioned that the actress who played Darla Dimple, Laura Peldson, I think her name is.
Yes.
She was 12 during during production, and it sounds like a 12-year-old girl. But
Ashley Peldon.
Ashley Peldon, thank you. Ashley Peldon. it sounds like a kid doing it because it's a 12-year-old doing it.
But it's great too because
But it's great.
also sounds like a kid trying to sound younger than they actually are, which is perfect for the role.
It's perfect. It is perfect for the role because it seems like the character of Darla is supposed. At least my interpretation is that she's older than she actually is. That she's actually portrayed as.
It strikes me as a kid who knows they're aging out of the parts they're known for, and they're trying to hold on to it.
Kind of like a white dwarf starlet type,
exactly.
except younger.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was gonna say, outside of his voice work, I was gonna use the example of Haley Joel Osment.
Oh yeah.
Because I think the last movie he did that, like his last child star movie, was Secondhand Lions.
That was when he was obviously.
And he was like 16 when he did that.
Mm-hmm.
He was very visibly hitting puberty at that point.
Well, I think they even had to do some stuff with the Kingdom Hearts games. That's actually the reason they do the time skip to age up Sora.
Yeah, because his voice was deepening.
Yeah.
Still does a great job though.
No,
He does a great job. Yeah.
No, yeah. There's a reason Haley Joel Osment has been doing more voice acting. He's really good at it.
Yeah.
I like that. I like all the clips, by the way, that have come out of his movie roles where it says accidental Sora voice.
Yeah, and he slips into the Sora voice.
It's so funny.
It is. Yeah.
But yeah, Darla, so great. The animation on her is great. Her whole thing is that she is a Shirley Temple send-up who is putting on the performance of an animal lover and a sweetheart, but is egomaniacal.
Awful person. Just the worst.
Just the worst.
Just like the megalomaniacal kind of like child star who's trying to be, basically, who's like, I have to be the star of everything.
To put it for some of like the people in our age demographic, it's like in Drake and Josh, how Megan would act all cutesy, but was like this evil genius.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So that is based on one of many rumors, totally false, by the way, about Shirley Temple, that she was actually an older, shorter actress who was pretending to be a child, but was also a chain-smoking bitch who abused children and was a racist. All this is false. She was a sweetheart as a child and as an adult, when she did all sorts of charity work.
Yeah.
By all accounts, those were just, Hollywood scuttlebutt.
Oh, yeah. She did, however, dislike Shirley Temples. That is actually true.
She did not like that drink.
Yeah.
It's funny. Irony.
Yeah.
But, yeah, Darla's great.
Too sweet in her opinion.
Which makes sense. I mean, it's sugar on top of sugar with cherry flavor.
Yeah, no. I love a Shirley Temple. Don't get me wrong. I love that drink. But no, I can see why people don't like it.
Yeah, a bit too much for me, personally. But, yeah, Darla's animation is great. It's amazing how many crazed, evil expressions they get out of her. Erin did a great job doing that. Wish I had a camera. But, but yeah, she's so emotive and crazy. And the best parts are where she's feigning friendliness to Danny, and her eye is twitching, and the camera doesn't leave any room for anything but her face. It's great, and so is her assistant, Max.
Yeah, I love the fact that I was so annoyed that her Max just kept beating the crap out of abusing poor little Pudge, but you know. Don't worry, folks. Pudge makes it out okay.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But that is Mark Dindal voicing Max when he's on scene. He was originally supposed to be a placeholder for him.
Yeah, but then they were like, we've run out of money.
Plus, it was funny anyway. Just the stone face. Yes, Miss Dimple.
Yeah, they were like, yeah, we've run out of money. Mark's fine.
Yeah.
Just have Mark do it.
Just keep it on.
A lot of good physical comedy out of him, especially when he starts tapping his toe to the music.
Yeah.
Just wiggling his hips like he's dancing.
Yeah.
Sawyer's also a endearing character. Typical tsundere in these sorts of underdog musical stories, but made more charismatic by Jasmine Guy's voice work and Natalie Cole.
animation too.
Oh, especially the animation. And Natalie Cole's stellar voice and singing.
One thing I read that I thought was kind of weird was like, and it's the impression you get, so the fact they changed it is bizarre. Sawyer was originally supposed to be older than Danny, and they were like, that's weird. And I'm like, no,
Is it though?
it's not that weird.
Because I'm just saying, like, Danny's supposed to be probably what? If he was a person, probably
20.
20
yeah.
in his early 20s.
Yeah.
Sawyer is already a career woman who tried her hand in show business.
Yeah, I get the impression
she was,
Sawyer's
like-
in like her 30s.
Yeah, she's already like, I put
That's-
that behind me. I'm like 35 or something.
That's not that weird.
No, it's not that weird.
They could have made like a, sort of a May-December thing out of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that would have been perfectly fine. I don't get why that's weird.
I mean, as is, they're cute enough despite the rushed screenplay. One could argue that Danny kind of overplays his hand, but he's reverent enough of her talents, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
and he's not trying to go out of his way to get her, which makes it more charming,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like in a lot of especially kids musicals or like kids movies you see, whereas like the guy tries to get the girl and it's always the creepiest, most annoying and obnoxious way to try to get a girl.
I thought of a way worse example of a shoehorned romance in an animated film, by the way.
Yeah.
Quest for Camelot.
I was about to say Quest for Camelot.
Did you want to go off, or should I?
You can go.
So,
That movie sucks.
oh yeah, it
does.
sucks.
It's bottom of the barrel 90s kids movie.
Oh, yeah.
Bargain
Up there.
basement.
Only way
Anyway,
you can get worse is to direct a DVD like sequels to Disney films.
yeah. And
Like
the
Cinderella 3 or something.
No, that's the good one.
Oh, that's the good one?
That's
I
the
haven't seen
really
it so-
good
I
one.
haven't seen it in so long.
Cinderella 2 sucks. Cinderella 3 is the one that's shockingly
fantastic, honestly, by those standards.
good. It's a time travel film that works.
That one. For some reason,
Yeah.
I thought they did a fourth Cinderella.
No,
That
they
was
didn't.
annoying.
No. 3's the good one.
3's the good one. Lion King 2 isn't bad either.
It's alright.
It's alright. Lion King 1.5 I remember being funny, even though looking back on it, it's not the best movie.
Not the best one, but give Lion King 1.5 credit for replicating the animation well on
Aladdin
a budget.
3's the really bad one.
Yeah. I was
King of
also-
Thieves?
No, Aladdin 2 is the...
Aladdin 2 is King of Thieves.
No, Aladdin 2 is Return of Jafar.
That one sucks. That's the really bad one.
Yeah.
3's good.
And I was also going to say Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, don't bother watching it.
Tarzan 2. Ugh.
The only good thing about Tarzan 2 is George Carlin.
He's in that?
Yeah,
He voices a gorilla.
he's like the mentor character in that.
Little Mermaid 2. Ugh.
Okay, we're getting back to this movie,
Yeah.
please. My point is, Quest for Camelot's romance has two characters who are just
They're
the
like
most...
always at each other's throats.
They're so adversarial and so confrontational that the romance musical number is... You get the sense that it was literally there just to check it off the list.
Yeah, because, like, the enemies to lovers trope, Dalton and I both hate that thing. We know, yes, I know it goes back to the Taming of the Shrew. Yes, I know it originates in Shakespeare. However, it's overplayed, it's overdone, and like I think of Pride and Prejudice, and I am in the minority of people who hated that book. I had to read it in high school.
Look, there's one notable example that like people loved that did it well, that even I'm not the biggest on, which was nowadays this trope is usually known as the Sam and Diane.
Yeah.
After Cheers. Cheers did it successfully, and everyone's tried to do it since.
I think the best way to handle those sorts of romances is to have a Batman Catwoman thing. Like those are compelling.
I mean, maybe it's because I remember reading a lot of Shakespeare in high school. Was with the exception of Hamlet. I always see I was like, oh yeah, that's the I'm blanking on her name right now. I just had
Ophelia?
it. No, that's Hamlet. That's one I didn't read.
No.
Benedict and what's her name from Shit, I'm blanking on her name and the name of the play.
Yeah, I'm not sure actually.
This is gonna drive me nuts. Richie, you keep talking. I'll get back to it later.
Sorry. Point is, it's not like
Beatrice. Beatrice and Benedict. Sorry, continue.
What play was that?
I think that's Taming of the Shrew.
Okay.
wow, the timing on that. Thank you. That was funny. Point is, Danny and Sawyer have way better chemistry than that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's perfect, but you can see it coming.
Yeah.
Even if it could have used more time in the oven.
Absolutely.
But their chemistry's cute enough. The side characters are cool. I like Tilly the hippo.
Yeah.
She's fun.
Yeah.
And I feel like the other thing the movie could have used is honestly more musical numbers because there's not a ton.
Yeah, there's like 5 at most.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the two things this movie could have used most was more runtime and more musical numbers in
Absolutely.
that runtime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you have a movie that's a tribute to Golden Age Hollywood musicals that only has like 5 songs in it.
And they all fill their own boxes. You have the protagonist's I Want song. You have the villain song. You have the musical number within the musical.
Yeah.
You have the sad
ballad piece, yeah.
and you have the finale.
And you have the finale, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the 5, but you can do more than just 5 movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Credit where credit's due. They spared no expense on the animation in those.
Yeah.
No, they didn't.
Seeing as how those are very story relevant, however, I think at the 51-15 mark is a good place to get into spoilers for a bit.
Do we even want to get into spoilers at this? Cause,
I want people to see this.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying, like, I feel like we could almost just tell people to just go watch it. It's literally free.
It is free on YouTube.
Yeah,
It's free with ads on YouTube. If you want to buy or rent it, you can
Yeah.
on Amazon Prime. Otherwise,
I'm sure you can find DVD.
You can probably find a DVD copy on Amazon or eBay.
Yeah.
Funny you should mention that because there are DVD copies of it, but weirdly enough, this movie was treated way better in foreign countries than here. The most current Blu-ray copies.
Japanese.
I think I saw some in France too.
Okay, yeah.
That's
Because I was
oddly
about to say,
specific.
Japan gets a lot of Blu-ray releases before we do that make you go, wait, what? Like, the first place you could get Columbo in its entirety on Blu-ray was Japan. Because Columbo was very popular in Japan. To the point that they had a Japanese version of Columbo, literally called, like, the Columbo Shimano. And it's just a Japanese version of Columbo.
So, I guess if we're not getting into spoilers, I'll just say that the last number is probably the best.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you have Natalie Cole singing her heart out, so.
Yeah. Well, brief spoilers just so we can talk about that.
Okay.
Really quick. So at the
The
50 to almost 53-minute mark here.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 53-minute mark.
Okay.
53.
Yeah. So there's always a good. It's perfect comedy when you have like the scene or the big thing that's going to be ruined by the villains, but they accidentally just keep making it better. Yeah.
For context, the animals have tried and failed to get into Darla Dimple's picture, the little archangel, and she floods the stage and frames them for it.
Mm-hmm.
But then Danny stages something after encouragement from Pudge and Sawyer, where they put on a stage performance after the premiere of the movie.
Yeah.
And that is when
Darla loses it.
That's when Darla loses her shit and the fast-paced comedy really hits its peak.
Yeah, she keeps trying to do things to sabotage the number and just keeps accidentally making it better.
Switching on all the lights just when they're under the lights.
Yeah. Trying to, like, opening the curtain thinking they don't have anything set up behind or something, or it'll ruin, like, timing, but it just makes the timing
When it
better.
turns out Sawyer and Tilly had dragged everyone back there.
Yeah.
And also that, like, all the lights, everything was already pre-set up.
Yeah, no, that's always good comedy. Someone trying to ruin something and making it better. Honestly, one of my favorite comedy tropes.
Hell, even the slapstick stuff is high tier.
Oh, yeah.
Like when the aforementioned stage flooding happens and Wooly is trying to break up Sawyer and Danny from fighting over the wheel of the ship. And they're like, stay out of it. And he's like, oh, never mind. I apologize. And they smash right into
and he just does. He just stays out of it.
Stop.
Like slapstick is at its best when it's kids movie or something that acts so cartoony that it's basically a cartoon, like the Three Stooges
or the first Home Alone movie.
Yeah,
I was gonna say Home Alone, kids movies,
Christmas
Three
Vacation?
Stooges, Christmas Vacation, Mel Brooks.
Yeah,
definitely.
because say what you will about Chevy Chase, he can sell physical comedy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Dude was rubber, living rubber.
He was.
But yeah,
Jim Varney.
Jim Varney, you're
my boy.
Your inspiration.
One of my inspirations. Yeah.
But yeah, the way they escalate, nothing's gonna stop us now, is so great. Natalie Cole doesn't miss a note, as Erin said.
Rest in peace, Natalie Cole.
Rest in peace. Darla's losing her mind, and she's getting her ass kicked by the same traps that she set up.
Yeah.
And at this point, it's great because she tries calling Max, but they've gotten rid of him.
They've already taken him out of the equation.
And
as I said, he's probably in the. As I said, he's probably in the Pacific Ocean somewhere.
Yeah, because after the scene at the end where he floats off on the balloon that's being like that after it was popped, we were like, okay, he's probably halfway to Midway by now.
There's a blink and you'll miss it scene in that movie too that we kind of glossed over because we were busy taking it in, where she actually shouts Max and it echoes, and he's in France, and you hear him go, "Oui, Miss Dimple."
Huh.
Yeah, we totally missed that.
Yeah.
Also, man, that balloon went far because it literally went the opposite direction if he's in France.
Yeah.
He should have been in like
Hawaii
or Okinawa or something. You know?
Heavy headwind.
I guess so.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about like how they teach you in school about like wind directions and that kind of thing based on meteorology.
Motherfucker should have been in Japan.
He should have been in Japan, not France.
Yeah.
Hi, Miss Dimple. Sorry.
Hi.
Yeah, because I've heard that it's faster to fly from New York to California than it is from California to New York because of the wind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's all great. The choreography is great, and you can tell that they were trying to make an animated Gene Kelly movie out of those dance steps.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with Danny.
I think we can get out of spoilers now at like the 57.5-minute mark.
Wow.
Yeah.
Breezy movie, breezy spoilers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to try not to make the podcast longer than the movie because it's a short film, as we said.
Fair enough. But it's still good.
Oh, yeah. Go watch it. It's free on
free on
YouTube with ads. There's only a few ads you have to get through. You can probably
there's
find
only like 3 ad breaks in the movie.
Yeah, you can probably... It's... And, if you're one of those people that has, like, YouTube Premium or something, you can literally just... You won't even have the ads, so...
And for all of the production troubles it had, we gotta thank this movie for putting Mark Dindal on the critics list and for giving Lauren Faust her launch pad.
Oh, yeah, and, there's also this thing called... I wouldn't advise installing it. You're not supposed to. They're called ad blockers. That's also an option,
They're very tricky with YouTube, though.
Well, and not if you're doing it off a computer.
That's true.
Yeah. If you're doing it off your phone, good luck. But if you're like watching this on a laptop or a PC and you have an ad blocker on, you won't even.
You're
get
fine.
ads. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen more ad breaks in short YouTube videos than I have in this movie.
Like they let the movie play out.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's cute. It's hilarious. It's got charming characters, and you can tell from this and the on-point Randy Newman score that these guys loved old musicals.
Yeah, and I'm glad he didn't actually sing in it. I know people like Randy Newman's voice. I don't.
You don't like that little lisp thing?
No.
What I was going to say is we haven't really talked about the score itself that much.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick. Let's bang it out.
There's not a ton to talk about with
I
it.
did like I guess you would say the incidental music that was used in between scenes.
A lot of pianos.
Yes.
A lot of pianos, a lot of like old musical and jazz standard sounding stuff, which is something I really appreciated.
Yeah, what I really appreciate about the score is it doesn't just try to be modern. It fits the style of the time.
Which is fitting considering Randy Newman's influences were the likes of Ray Charles and just a lot of Americana.
Feels like the old musical numbers you get in a Gene Kelly thing, or Cole Porter as well.
Yeah.
You can't really pick a better composer for this kind of atmosphere than Randy Newman.
Ironically, nowadays, aside from Randy Newman, the best person you could get to get this old-timey musical-like song sequences, and this is a thing I've said before, I still want him to do something. Seth MacFarlane.
Oh, yeah.
If
honestly.
Seth MacFarlane wrote like an old-timey musical, I would go see it. That man's very good at writing music.
And impressions.
That too.
The man has been trained and can do very good impressions of the likes of Frank Sinatra.
Has an amazing voice.
Dean Martin.
He's got a great voice.
Like, say what you will about Seth MacFarlane's brand of comedy. There's stuff that can be said.
He's a great music writer.
He's a great
music writer. I've never been a fan of his comedy, to be honest.
No, that's fair.
But as a singer and as a songwriter, he's got chops.
Yeah.
I don't really know if I can recommend a mid-tier Illumination movie for it, but Sing has him doing his whole Frank Sinatra bit with a...
I've honestly heard he's one of the highlights of Sing.
Oh yeah, he's the resident asshole. He's a little mouse who just is like, everyone's like earnest dreamers except him. He's like, I'm in it for the money.
Yeah.
And he does a great cover of Pennies from Heaven and of the anthem of every asshole ever, My Way.
Yeah, and
I would say it had to be My Way.
The thing with Seth MacFarlane is he's got a lot of talent. I just feel like he knows what people expect him to do and he rests on it, which is a shame because like his later stuff has gotten better. American Dad is much better than Family Guy.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Yeah, and early Family Guy before it got canceled is genuinely still great in my opinion.
Oh yeah. It just got too much. It got too big for its own good.
It literally missed the whole point because the whole point of early Family Guy is it's kind of a proto BoJack Horseman where it's like Peter takes all these lessons from TV and it's shown to be a bad thing that he takes all of his lessons from TV.
Yeah. It's there in the theme song.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Seth MacFarlane,
Amazing singer.
until he does that hypothetical old-timey musical, go watch this because it's got great animation, etc., etc. And I think that's a good part to cap it off.
Oh, yeah.
And transition to saying thank you, everybody, because
We're finally getting around to our 100 subscriber special.
yay!
Yay!
So after a lot of deliberation, and we brought up Disney several times during this, that wasn't intentional. We've mentioned before, it was a bad time for Disney throughout most of the 80s.
Oh, a terrible time.
They kept making all these gambles and, shooting for the ceiling, but just nothing ever seemed to work outright.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about some of the Disney movies that came out during the 80s. There's a whole Nerdist article about this.
Oliver and Company, The Black Cauldron.
I was also going to talk about the live action stuff, like Something Wicked
Oh,
This Way
God,
Comes, Watcher in the Woods, that kind of thing.
And don't get
Witch
us wrong,
Mountain.
some of those are great. Like, Something Wicked This Way Comes is awesome. Go check it out. It's
Please
scary.
do.
It's scary. It's legitimately
Horrifying.
scary. Earth Kit, great. She's great in that. She's so good in that. Is the Dust Witch?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, that was Earth Kit, right?
I think so.
I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
But the
I'll confirm it in post.
Okay.
if you can find the article, I think it's called The Decade Disney Scared Us. Because
A lot of scary stuff, too.
yeah, because there's a lot of scary stuff going on in the 80s, especially in live action kids
Was
movies.
Return to Oz Disney?
No.
I don't think so.
Never
That
mind.
was not Disney, and that was made in the 90s.
Anyway.
Point is, they unintentionally laid the groundwork for what would become probably the most recognizable cult classic film of all time. So join us next week when we cover the groundbreaking film that is an allegory for religion and belief using cybernetic worlds to tell the story, Tron.